I knew something was wrong the moment Pastor Owens asked me to step into his office after service. His voice was gentle, but there was a heaviness behind it I couldn't ignore. My fingers were still trembling from holding communion trays when he closed the door, sighed, and slid a folded notice across his desk toward me. And right there, in that cramped little room behind the choir loft, I felt my stomach drop the moment I saw my name printed next to the words, "Foreclosure Proceeding, Final Warning." I swear the world stopped. My ears buzzed. My throat tightened so fast I could barely breathe. I whispered, This has to be a mistake, because surely I hadn't fallen behind on my mortgage. Not me, not the woman who paid bills on time every month for 30 years, even when money was tight, even when life knocked me down. Surely the bank had mixed me up with someone else. But when Pastor Owens gently said, "Sister Monica, they've been trying to reach you," my whole body went cold. I pulled out my phone so fast I nearly dropped it. Notifications, letters, missed calls, all marked from the bank, and my heart started racing because it didn't make sense. I hadn't missed any payments. My breath stuttered. I had used my savings to stay ahead, especially after I invested that $40,000 into the community project my cousin Daria convinced me to support. My hand trembled as I sat down. My knees couldn't hold me anymore. I whispered, "Lord, what did she do?" Because everything suddenly clicked into place. Daria had been dodging my calls for weeks. She had stopped showing up at church meetings. Every time I asked for updates on the project, the one she swore would help underprivileged mothers in our neighborhood, she'd send some vague text about permits and waving on the city. And me, being the trusting fool I was, believed her. Pastor Owen sat across from me, his hands folded, eyes full of concern. "Monica, are you in some kind of trouble?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to break down right there on that small faded rug where so many prayer circles had been held. Instead, I swallowed hard, blinked my tears back, and tried to speak. My cousin, she told me she had this program she was building. She needed investors, said the church would partner with her once things were up, and my voice cracked. I gave her my savings, all 40,000, everything I had, and she promised it was safe. The room grew painfully quiet. I thought of the afternoons Daria and I spent cooking together, laughing together, praying together. I thought of how she leaned on me after her divorce, how I slipped her grocery money when she was struggling, how she told anyone who asked that I was the big sister God forgot to give her, how I trusted her more than anyone outside my own children. So when she looked me dead in my eyes 3 months ago and said, "Cousin, this investment will bless the whole community. You'll be changing lives," I didn't hesitate. But sitting in Pastor Owen's office with that foreclosure notice burning into my skin, I realized I had been played, betrayed, lied to, used. A deep ache spread through my chest. I'm going to lose my house, my home of 30 years, the only thing I have left. Pastor Owens leaned forward. "Monica, listen to me. We will figure this out. But first you need to tell me everything. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about the investment, the promises, the paperwork she swore she would file, the check I wrote with my whole heart, believing I was sowing into something good. And when I finished, he sat back slowly, shook his head, and murmured, "That girl never submitted anything. There is no project registered with the church. Nothing." My breath caught. Nothing. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out his computer. "Let me check something, okay?" His fingers typed across the keys. He searched city permits, nonprofit listings, community development grants. Nothing. Over and over. Nothing. My world tilted. My cousin had taken my $40,000, lied straight to my face, used my kindness, my faith, my loyalty. And now because of her, I was about to be thrown out of the home I worked my whole life for. A deep ache spread through my chest. I'm going to lose my house, my home of 30 years, the only thing I have left. Pastor Owens leaned forward. Monica, listen to me. We will figure this out. But first, you need to tell me everything. So I did. I told him about the investment, the promises, the paperwork she swore she would file, the check I wrote with my whole heart, believing I was sowing into something good. And when I finished, he sat back slowly, shook his head, and murmured, "That girl never submitted anything. There is no project registered with the church. Nothing." My breath caught. Nothing? He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out his computer. "Let me check something, okay?" His fingers typed across the keys. He searched city permits, nonprofit listings, community development grants. Nothing. Over and over. Nothing. My world tilted. My cousin had taken my $40,000, lied straight to my face, used my kindness, my faith, my loyalty, and now because of her, I was about to be thrown out of the home I worked my whole life for. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could stop it. Pastor Owens gently handed me a tissue. "Monica, have you spoken to her?" I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh, because what else could I do? I said she won't answer my calls. She blocked me on Facebook. She told Aunt V I was getting too nosy. The shame burned deeper than the betrayal. Pastor Owen sighed heavily. "Then I think the next step is clear." I frowned through my tears. "What step?" He looked me directly in my eyes. "You need to confront her today." A sharp chill ran through me because deep down, I knew he was right. I knew Daria had been hiding. But now that I had a foreclosure notice in my hand, the clock was ticking, and suddenly I felt something shift inside me. Not rage, not heartbreak, but a quiet, steady fire, a strength I forgot I still had. I stood up slowly, then I guess I'm going to find her. But as I stepped into the hallway, wiping tears from my face, my phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. My heart slammed against my ribs as I opened it. And when I read those 5 words, my knees nearly buckled. "Stop looking for your money."
For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, my breath trapped somewhere between my ribs and my throat. The church hallway bustled around me, kids running towards Sunday school, choir members laughing, someone arguing about who forgot to plug in the coffee urn. But all of it sounded like distant stag. All I could see were those 5 words glowing on my phone. "Stop looking for your money." My fingers went numb. I reread it 4, 5, 6 times, each repetition slicing a little deeper. Whoever sent it knew exactly what to say to scare me, to silence me, to make me back down. But instead, something in me sharpened. I typed back with shaking hands. "Who is this?" No response. I swallowed hard, unsure whether the tremor in my chest was fear or anger. Maybe both. I tucked my purse into my purse and headed for the parking lot. The November wind hit me like a slap. Sharp, cold, unkind. My car door creaked as I climbed in and gripped the steering wheel. My eyes drifted to the cracked leather seat beside me, the same seat where Daria used to sit while we listened to gospel cassettes, laughing our way to family cookouts. I whispered into the empty car, "Why would you do this to me?" No answer came, of course, just the dull ache settling deeper into my bones. I took a breath, turned the ignition, and made my decision. I wasn't going home. I was going to find her. My first stop was Aunt Vi's house, because if anyone knew where Daria was hiding, it would be the woman who raised her after her mother passed. The drive there felt longer than usual. Every red light made my pulse throb. Every turn tightened something in my stomach. When I pulled up to the blue house, the curtains twitched. Before I even reached the porch, the screen door swung open. Aunt Vi stood there with her arms crossed, her face pinched with worry. "Monica, baby, I was hoping you wouldn't come here." My steps faltered. "You know where she is?" She looked away. "I know nothing but trouble follows you two these days." "Aunt Vi," I said, my voice trembling with equal parts fear and fury. "I need to talk to her. She took all my savings. My throat closed up. I'm about to lose my home." Her lips pressed together in a thin line. She leaned on her cane and motioned me inside. Once the door closed behind me, her shoulders dropped and she whispered, "She told you I'd come. And she told me not to help you." The betrayal stung sharper than I expected. "She told you not to help me after what she did?"
She said you were starting drama. Aunt Vi sighed. Said you were being pushy. Said you knew the risks. There were no risks. There wasn't even a project. Aunt Vi flinched and guilt stabbed me. I lowered my voice. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shout. She waved it off and shuffled toward her recliner. Sit down, child. I did. She looked tired, older than her 72 years. I love you both, but Daria's been different lately. Secretive, defensive. She said people were out to get her, that you were one of them. She stole $40,000. I'm not out to get her. I'm out to get my life back. Aunt Vi stared at the carpet for a long moment before finally whispering, she's staying with a man named DeRay. Who? Some boyfriend. Or whatever they're calling each other. Aunt Vi waved her hand. He has a place off Briar Creek Road. I don't like him. Something in his eyes. Too cold. A shiver crawled down my spine. She leaned closer. Don't go alone, Monica. I have to, I said softly. This is my last chance. Before she could argue, my phone buzzed again. My heart jumped. Another message from the same unknown number. Don't show up here. Last warning. My blood ran cold. Aunt Bunny whispered, Monica, who is that? I stared at the screen before replying. I think she knows I'm coming. My hands trembled as I stood. I need that address. Aunt Vi hesitated, then scribbled it on a scrap of paper. Please, please be careful. I hugged her. Her frail arms squeezed me tighter than I expected. I pulled away before the tears could spill and walked back out into the cold November air. The moment I sat in my car, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a text. It was a picture. My heart slammed into my ribs. When I opened it, the breath left my body. It was a photo of my house, taken just minutes ago, and under it a single message. Turn around before you lose more than money.
For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The photo on my screen blurred as my eyes filled with heat, and every sound outside my car melted into silence. There was my little brick house, my safe place, my peace, my pride, captured from the front yard as if someone had stood right at my mailbox. The porch light I forgot to turn off glowed faintly in the background, and the dying fall mums I never got around to replanting sagged like little brown ghosts. Someone had been there. Today, watching me. My fingers slipped on the phone screen. Lord, I whispered, feeling the world tilt beneath me. What have I gotten dragged into? I didn't know whether to call the police or just start screaming. Fear twisted down my spine like a wet rope. Still shaking, I zoomed in on the image, squinting, searching for shadows or shapes, anything that told me who took it, but the angle was clean. Too clean. Then another message appeared. This is your last warning, Monica. My full name. Not Mo, not Miss Monica, not any nickname Daria used. Someone else. Someone who wanted me afraid. I looked at Aunt Vi's house through the windshield. She was probably watching from behind the curtain. I couldn't drag her further into this. I couldn't risk anyone else getting tangled in Daria's mess. But I was also not going home. Not with whoever that was lurking around my place. I started the engine, my heartbeat pounding so loudly it drowned out the hum of the car. The street lights flickered overhead as I pulled away from the curb, and the November sky, heavy and low, felt like it was pressing down on me. I took the long route toward Briar Creek Road in case someone was following me. Every time a car rode too close behind me, my stomach clenched. Every time a shadow shifted on the sidewalk, my foot twitched on the gas pedal. About 10 minutes into the drive, my phone buzzed again. Another text. Not from the unknown number. This time, it was from Daria. My chest tightened as I opened it. Monica, I heard you're looking for me. Stop, please, before this gets worse. Worse. Worse! What could possibly be worse than losing my house? I hit call without thinking. She picked up on the second ring, her voice tiny, strained, like she was speaking from a locked closet. Why are you doing this to me? I demanded, my voice shaking. A breath, a whisper. I never meant for it to go this far. You stole $40,000. I didn't mean to steal it.
Things just got out of control. Daria, where are you? I tightened my grip on the wheel. I need to talk to you, face to face. No, she snapped, sudden panic in her voice. Monica, listen to me. Don't come here. Please, you don't know these people. My pulse stumbled. These people? You mean DeRay? Silence, then a soft, terrified exhale. Monica, hang up. Go home. Don't call me again. Daria, I yelled, but she had already disconnected. The call dropped into a dead quiet that made my skin crawl. I drove in silence for the next few minutes until the GPS led me to a rundown apartment complex at the end of Briar Creek Road. Cracked pavement, flickering outdoor lights, windows covered with sheets instead of curtains. The kind of place where tenants didn't speak to strangers and strangers didn't ask questions. I parked under a streetlight that buzzed like an insect. The air smelled like stale grease and cigarette smoke. A group of young men leaned against a car nearby, watching me with the kind of stare that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I clutched my purse, squared my shoulders, and stepped out. I had survived divorce, raising 2 kids alone, working 2 jobs at once, and losing every family member who ever held me up. I was not about to be scared off by a group of boys with loud jackets and louder music. I walked up the stairs, following the apartment number Aunt Vi had given me. Each step creaked under my feet. Every instinct in my body screamed, "Turn around." But my anger was stronger. My need for answers was stronger. When I reached the 3rd floor landing, I saw it. Apartment 3B, a ripped welcome mat, an overflowing trash bag beside the door, a cigarette burn on the wooden frame. I lifted my hand to knock, but paused when I heard voices inside. One of them was Daria's. The other was a deep male voice I didn't recognize. And then I heard my own name. "Monica's getting too close," the man said. My blood turned to ice. Daria's voice trembled. "She won't stop." "She better, or somebody's about to teach her how to." I froze, my knuckles just inches from the door as those words sank into my skin like cold needles. Teach her how to? My heart hammered so loud I was afraid they'd hear it through the thin apartment wall. Everything inside me said, back away, slowly, quietly. Run while you still can. But my feet felt glued to the spot. My breath stuck halfway between my lungs and my throat. I leaned closer, barely daring to move. The hallway light flickered overhead, buzzing like it was warning me. Inside, the man spoke again, his voice steady in that chilling, casual way people talk when they don't care what happens next. She keeps asking questions. She's calling around. She's got people poking at things that don't concern her. Daria whispered something I couldn't make out. Her tone was shaky, like she was pleading with him. I'd never heard her sound like that, not even during the worst moments of her life. It hit me in the chest. Beautiful cousin, tangled up in something way darker than I ever imagined. The man continued. She needs to mind her business, or we'll make her. Those last words crawled down my spine. My knees nearly buckled. I stepped back as quietly as I could, my shoes sliding against the worn carpet. I didn't dare breathe. The hallway felt too narrow, the walls too close. I needed to get out of there before the door swung open and I had no time to hide. But then, a soft cry slipped through the door. Daria's cry. It stopped me cold. "Please," she said. "She's family. Just let me talk to her." The man laughed, a low, ugly sound. "Family didn't stop her from showing up today, did it?" Another silence. A thick, suffocating silence. Then footsteps inside, heavy ones, moving toward the door. Fear shot through me like fire. I hurried down the hallway, careful not to run, not to make noise, not to show panic. When I reached the stairs, I practically flew down them, gripping the railing so tightly it burned my palm. The moment I hit the ground floor, the cold air outside slapped me again, this time with the bitter bite of adrenaline. But I didn't go to my car, not yet. Instead, I ducked behind a row of dented mailboxes, my breath clouding in the icy air. I waited, heart pounding, watching the stairwell like prey watching the edge of the forest. Sure enough, the man appeared moments later. Tall, broad shoulders, black hoodie, thick beard, the kind of presence that made the street light seem dimmer. He scanned the parking lot with slow, calculated movements, like he was searching for someone, like he was searching for me. I clamped my hand over my mouth, praying he wouldn't look down my direction. He took one step forward, then another, his boots hitting the concrete with deliberate weight. My pulse throbbed in my ears. A car horn honked somewhere in the distance and he finally turned away. After another long scan, he headed back inside. I exhaled shakily, my breath white and trembling. My limbs felt weak as I hurried toward my car, trying to keep my steps steady, even though every instinct screamed, "Run, run, run." When I reached my door, my hand shook so violently I missed the handle twice. The moment I got inside, I locked everything, doors, windows. Even though I was nowhere near home, I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat staring at my own reflection in the dark window. I looked older than 55, tired, scared, and something else, determined. I whispered to myself, he will not scare me off. Not again, not anymore. My phone buzzed again. A single text from Daria. "Please, leave this alone. I can't protect you from them." I typed back, fingers trembling with rage and heartbreak. "Who is them? And what did you get into?" No answer. I dropped my phone into my lap, started the car, and pulled out of the lot. The cold night pressed against my windshield, matching the heaviness in my chest. I drove with white-knuckled focus, the streetlights streaking past like ghostly warnings. Halfway home, I stopped at a gas station. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat there staring at the pump. I needed time to think, to breathe, to understand what I was up against. But as I reached for my wallet, a shadow moved near my peripheral vision. A man approached my passenger side door. My heart jumped into my throat. He tapped the window once, slowly, deliberately, then leaned down so his face was inches from the glass. It was the same man from the apartment. His lips curled into a smirk. I froze. He lifted his phone and tapped the screen, then held it up for me to see. A picture flashed back at me. Not my house this time. Me, standing outside his apartment door 10 minutes ago. He mouthed the words, "I see you." I didn't move for a full 30 seconds after he disappeared into the shadows. My breath stayed trapped inside my chest like it was afraid to escape. The cold gas station lights flickered overhead, humming in that lonely way that made the world feel both too big and too small at the same time. My hands were shaking so hard the steering wheel rattled. He'd taken a picture of me. He'd followed me down the stairs. He'd watched me leave, and he wanted me to know it. My throat tightened. "God, what is this?" I whispered, but the words fell heavy and unanswered in the empty car. A woman in a red coat walked out of the gas station toward her car. She gave me a polite smile. Just a stranger going about her evening, but I watched her like she might be part of it, like anyone could be. My trust in the world had shrunk to nothing in a matter of hours. I forced myself to breathe. I needed clarity, not panic. I needed a plan. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not after the photo. Not with someone bold enough to show up at a gas station just to taunt me. So I drove past my neighborhood, heart pounding as every familiar landmark blurred by, and pulled into a small 24-hour diner on the other side of town. I parked in the back, under the brightest light I could find, and went inside. The bell over the door jingled weakly. "Sit anywhere," the waitress said without looking up at her order pad. I chose a booth against the wall, facing the door, and ordered nothing but hot water. My stomach was twisted too tight to eat. My mind spun with what I had heard at the apartment, the texts, the picture, every piece of this puzzle that made less sense the more I tried to fit it together. Who were these men? What was their connection to Daria? Why did they want me silent? And what exactly had she gotten me into? When I finally pulled out my phone again, I had 3 new messages. 2 from the unknown number. Last, warning, go home. And 1 from Daria. Please trust me. Don't push this. I typed back immediately, my fingers tapping hard against the screen. I trusted you with my life savings. I trusted you with my home, and now I'm being threatened. I deserve the truth. The dots appeared, then disappeared, appeared again, then vanished completely. She didn't reply. My hot water sat untouched. My hands were too restless to wrap around the cup. I leaned forward, pressing my palms to my eyelids until colors flashed behind them. I needed someone who wasn't involved, someone who wasn't afraid. And against my better judgment, I let my thumb hover over my daughter's contact. But calling her would only drag her into danger. I couldn't do that. I couldn't risk her becoming a target, couldn't risk those men knowing I had family nearby that they could use against me. No, I needed to figure this out alone. Before I could spiral deeper into my thoughts, a figure slid into the booth across from me. I jumped so hard my knee hit the table. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," the man said, raising his palms. "It's just me." I blinked, breath catching. It was Eddie, a man from my church, a quiet type. Sat in the back during service, helped fix the microphones when they crackled, never said more than a few words at a time. "Eddie," I whispered, "what are you doing here?" He shrugged. "Late shift ended early." He studied my face, his expression softening. "You look bad, Miss Monica. You all right?" Something in me cracked. Not fully, not enough to pour out the truth, but enough that I didn't push him away. "Rough night," I murmured. "That's obvious." He leaned in. "You waiting for somebody? Because those men outside look shady." My heart crashed against my ribs. "Men? Outside?" He nodded. "Black car. Haven't come in. Windows tinted. Pulled up right after you." He lowered his voice. "You expecting company like that?" My breath trembled. "No." His jaw tightened. He looked toward the window, then back at me. "You want me to walk you out or call someone, because I don't like the energy they giving off." I swallowed hard. "No, I just need a minute." Eddie didn't look convinced, but he nodded and stood. "I'll be at the counter if you need anything." As he walked away, my fear finally swelled into something sharp and undeniable. They weren't just watching me at home. They weren't just sending threats. They were following me, actively, closely, boldly. I pushed out of the booth, nearly knocking the table with my hip, and hurried toward the bathroom hallway, not to hide, but to think with some measure of privacy. The hallway was dim, smelling faintly of lemon cleaner and old plaster. I leaned against the wall, breathing slowly, trying to steady myself. But then, a heavy footstep echoed behind me. I turned. A man stood at the end of the hallway. Not Eddie, not a diner employee. One of the men from the black car. He lifted his hand and pointed directly at me. Then he whispered one word, barely audible, but unmistakable. "Enough." My whole body went cold. The hallway felt like it shrank around me, the air thickening until each breath scraped my throat raw. The man didn't move closer. He didn't have to. His presence alone filled that narrow space with danger. His eyes locked on mine, dark and unblinking, like he was memorizing every inch of my face. I backed up slowly, my shoulder brushing the bathroom door. My voice trembled. I don't want any trouble." He smiled, a small, cruel curve of the mouth. Too late for that. My heart slammed against my ribs. I pressed my hand around the doorknob, ready to dart into the bathroom if he moved even an inch toward me. But he didn't advance. He stayed right where he was, hands tucked casually into his pockets, as if we were having a conversation about the weather. "What do you want?" I whispered. His smile widened. "For you to stop." "Stop what?" "You know what." His voice had a calmness that made my skin crawl. "You're poking into things you don't understand." My throat tightened. "She stole my money." "And you want it back." "I get that." He stepped forward one slow, deliberate pace. "But let it go. You're not built for what's underneath all this." That hit me like a slap. "You don't know what I'm built for." He laughed, low and mocking. "Lady, you're shaking like a leaf. You can't even hide your fear." I stiffened, fighting to steady my breath. "Fear doesn't make me weak. Fear keeps me alive." He stopped walking, stood there, studying me, tilting his head like he was trying to decide whether to respect me or destroy me. Finally, he said, "Last chance. Back off. Stay home. Keep your mouth shut. I can't, I said, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes flashed. Then you're gonna make this ugly. Before either of us could move, a booming voice cut through the tension. Hey! We both turned. Eddie stood at the end of the hallway, fists clenched, expression tight. He wasn't a big man, but the fury in his eyes made him look taller. You bothering her? He growled. The man turned to him with that same eerie calm. Just having a conversation. Not anymore. Get out. His jaw twitched. For a moment, I thought he might lunge at Eddie, might hit him, shove him, pull something from that thick jacket he wore. I pressed my back harder against the bathroom door, lungs burning. But instead, the man took a step backward, then another. Then he disappeared around the corner without breaking eye contact with Eddie until the last possible second. I let out a shaky breath, my knees suddenly weak. Eddie hurried to me, placing a steadying hand on my arm. Are you all right? I nodded, though the tremble in my chin betrayed me. I think so. What did he say? Eddie asked. My eyes darted to the hallway entrance, half expecting the man to reappear. Just threats, Eddie swore under his breath. Let's get you out of here. No, I whispered urgently. They're in the parking lot. Okay. Then we wait until they leave. We walked back to the booth, both of us silent, both scanning the diner through the bright windows. The black car was still out there, idling like a patient predator. Minutes passed. 10, 15. My fear shifted from sharp panic to a dull, nauseating throb in my gut. Eddie stayed close, his presence grounding me, but even he couldn't calm the storm inside me. Then finally, the headlights flicked on, the black car backed out of the parking lot and drove away. I exhaled shakily, relief washing over me like warm water. You're safe now, Eddie murmured, but I didn't feel safe. Not really. Not even when we stepped outside and he walked me to my car. Not even when he asked if he wanted to follow me home. And I panicked so hard I said no, blurting out that home wasn't safe either. He frowned. Monica, what's going on? For a moment, everything inside me wanted to spill out. The scam, the threats, the photo of my house, the danger I didn't understand. But fear clamped its hand over my mouth. If I told him, he would be pulled in. He would become a target, too. And I couldn't let that happen. I can handle it, I murmured. He looked unconvinced. Nobody handles something like this alone. I climbed into my car. I've been handling things alone my whole life. He leaned down, meeting my eyes through the open window. Just don't disappear on us, okay? You're a good woman. Church needs you. People need you. His words hit something tender inside me. I nodded and drove off into the dark. But as I approached the main road, my phone lit up again. Another message, this time from Daria. Monica, I didn't want them to find you. Please, I'm begging you, don't come looking for me again. Because if you show up here again, they won't warn you next time.
I sat there in my parked car long after the message notification stopped buzzing, staring at Daria's words until they blurred. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles whitening. She wasn't just scared, she was controlled, watched, smothered, and now, so was I. A car drove past, its headlights sweeping across my window, and I flinched hard. I hated how jumpy I'd become, how fear stalked my every movement like a shadow I couldn't shake off, but I forced myself to breathe. I put the car in drive and headed home, every streetlight looking harsher, every corner darker. When I finally pulled into my driveway, something in my chest twisted. My front porch light was on. I never left it on. My hand shook as I unlocked the door. The house was silent, too silent. I flipped on the hallway lights and scanned each room. Nothing looked disturbed. No broken windows, no drawers open, no footprints on the floor. But something felt wrong, like the air had been stirred. I made my way to the kitchen, trying to quiet the pounding in my chest. I set my keys on the counter and froze. My kitchen table chair was pulled out. Not dramatically, not tipped over, just a few inches misaligned.
Enough for me to know it wasn't how I left it. Enough for a chill to crawl up my spine like a cold finger tracing my vertebrae. They'd been inside, or someone had. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't want to look. My instinct screamed at me not to, but I did. A photo. My kitchen. Taken from inside the house. Taken earlier tonight. There I was, blurry but unmistakable, standing at the sink with my back turned. My breath hitched. My vision tunneled. Someone had been inside while I was home, watching me, close enough to touch me. A message followed. This is your second warning. My hand trembled so badly I almost dropped the phone. Every part of me wanted to run, grab my keys, grab my purse, get back in the car and drive anywhere. But my legs refused to move. My phone buzzed again. Call the police and we'll know. My throat tightened. A third message arrived. This one almost gentle. Just stop asking questions. Get a new job. Move if you need to. Forget the money. Forget the money. $40,000. My entire savings, my safety net, my future, my stability, my home, my trust. Gone. I sank into the couch, the weight of reality pressing down like a heavy stone on my chest. For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt truly, completely alone. I pressed my hands to my face and tried to keep my breathing steady, but then a sudden knock at the door. I gasped, heart thundering so loud I felt it in my skull. Another knock, this one slower, heavier. It echoed through the house. I forced myself to stand, moving quietly toward the peephole. When I looked, my heart nearly stopped. Eddie, his hands stuffed into his jacket, pockets head tilted down like he was worried. He knocked again, softer this time. Monica, you all right? You left so fast. My breath left me in one burst of relief so intense my knees buckled. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. His eyes widened. Jesus, you look pale. Are you okay? I shook my head, not able to lie anymore. Not after what just happened. Eddie, someone was in my house. His face hardened instantly. When? Tonight, I whispered, holding out my phone with the photo. They took this from right here. He snatched the phone, jaw tightening as he looked at the image. This isn't a warning. This is a threat. I know, I whispered. They said if I called the police and I don't give a damn what they said. He cut in, stepping inside the door and shutting it behind him. You're not staying here alone. But Eddie! No. His voice was firm but gentle. Pack your bag. You can stay at my place tonight. I hesitated. Eddie, I don't want to drag you into... You already did, and I'm not leaving you like this. My throat tightened with emotion so sudden it almost hurt. For the first time all night, I felt something flicker inside me. Hope. Maybe the smallest ember, but it was there. I nodded slowly. Okay. He exhaled in relief, rubbing the back of his neck. Good. Now go grab whatever you need. I turned toward the hallway, but Eddie stopped me gently with a hand on my arm. And Monica? I looked back at him. I'm not scared of whoever these people are, he said quietly, but they should be scared of what I'll do if they come near you again. Something warm and foreign stirred in my chest. Safety. Real, solid safety. I didn't know how long it would last, but for tonight, it was enough.
I never thought I'd see the day when my whole life could be reduced to 3 bags and a plastic grocery sack. As I walked up the uneven little walkway to Daddy's sister's house, clutching those sad bags like they were oxygen, I kept replaying the moment I locked the door to my old place for the last time. No furniture, no photos, no memories I could physically carry. Just my Bible, 2 changes of clothes, a pair of shoes, and a folder with every document I thought might keep me from drowning completely. When Eddie opened the front door, the warm smell of seasoned food and lemon cleaning spray rushed over me like a hug I didn't know I needed. Come on in, Monica, he said, stepping aside. But he didn't just step aside. He softened, like he could see the humiliation sitting on my shoulders. Inside, the house felt alive. A TV played loudly from somewhere down the hall. Pots clanked in the kitchen, and the air held that unmistakable mix of Black family energy. Laughter, fussing, warmth, chaos. I froze in the doorway, not wanting to intrude on their world with my broken pieces. "Ma'am, you can put your bags down," a young voice said. I turned to see a teenage boy with caramel skin and short curls, holding a broom in one hand. He gave me a half smile, the kind that says, "You look worn out, but you're welcome here." "That's my nephew, Jamal," Eddie whispered to me, as if introducing royalty. "Don't let the teenage attitude fool you. He's got a good heart." Jamal nodded once and went back to sweeping the hallway, but I caught him glancing back at me with a kind of quiet respect that nearly split me open. Before I could settle myself, Eddie's sister, Yvonne, came out from the kitchen, a tall woman with soft eyes and a strong presence that felt like both storm and shelter. She wiped her hands on her apron and pulled me into a hug so tight it almost dragged a sob out of me. "Monica, honey, you're safe here. Do you understand me?" Her voice was warm, but edged with iron. I nodded, afraid but if I opened my mouth a flood would come instead of words. "Good. I made you a plate, and after you eat, we'll show you your room." My room. The phrase hit me somewhere deep. I hadn't had a room of my own in days, just the backseat of my car and the harsh fluorescent lights of the convenience store where I stopped to cry when no one was around. When I sat at their dining table, eating Yvonne's baked chicken and cabbage like it was the first real food I'd had in forever, the house seemed to wrap around me with a soft kind of noise, the scraping of chairs, the hum of the fridge, and the occasional laugh from the TV. It felt like life happening around me instead of collapsing on me. But peace wasn't the only thing in the room. Shame was there too, sitting right across from me, staring me down. I pushed my fork aside. "I don't know how long I'll be here. I don't want to overstep." "Hush," Yvonne said firmly, not even looking up from the pot she was stirring. "You stay as long as you need. People forget that sometimes God's blessings come in the form of somebody's spare bedroom." Eddie sat across from me, arms crossed loosely, just watching. "You don't owe anybody explanations tonight. Just breathe." I tried. I truly did. But breathing was hard when the weight of everything I'd lost pressed against my ribs. My house, my savings, the trust I'd placed in Desiree, my own cousin, the way she'd smiled at me, laughed with me, cried with me over church sermons, all while planning to rip the ground from under my feet. Even thinking her name sent a cold shiver up my spine. Later, after the dishes were done and the house began winding down, Eddie showed me the small guest room at the end of the hall. A twin bed made with fresh sheets, a small lamp, a window covered with navy curtains. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine for now. "You need anything?" he asked softly. "No," I whispered. "This is more than enough." He hesitated in the doorway. "Monica, you're strong, but even strong people need a place to fall sometimes." The tears came before I could stop them. "I just feel so stupid. You trusted family. That ain't stupid. That's human." Something inside me cracked open, and I let myself sit on the edge of the bed, shoulders shaking, tears spilling fast. Eddie didn't move closer. He just stood there, letting me cry, giving me room, getting me dignity. When the door finally closed and the hallway lights flicked off, the silence wrapped around me. I lay back on the small bed, staring at the ceiling as the weight of everything settled again. Tomorrow, I'd have to call the bank again. I'd have to figure out paperwork. I'd have to decide if I was pressing charges. I'd have to face the world that kept handing me storms. But tonight I just needed to exist. I reached for my purse to grab some tissues, and that's when I saw it. A voicemail notification. Unknown number. My heart stopped. I pressed play, and I heard her voice. Desiree. She sounded frantic, and what she said next made my whole body go rigid. I didn't even realize I had stopped breathing until the voicemail ended and the room felt too quiet, too still. I just sat there on the edge of the narrow guest bed, staring at my phone like it had betrayed me too. Hearing Desiree's voice hit me somewhere I wasn't prepared for. After everything she'd done to me, everything she'd taken from me, I thought hearing her again would spark instant fury. But instead, it felt like getting punched straight in the chest. Her voice was shaky, rushed, almost panicked. "Monica, please. I didn't know who else to call. I need to talk to you. It's important.
Please, pick up. Then a sharp breath, then silence. No apology, no explanation, no accountability, just desperation. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pretend I never heard her voice at all, but instead, I just sat there with my head in my hands, listening to my own heartbeat pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Everything in me said, don't call her back. Don't let her drag you down again. But another part, some old wounded part, shaped by years of church services, Sunday dinners, and trust in family, whispered, what if she really is in trouble? What if this is the moment everything makes sense? I swallowed hard and forced myself to breathe. I wasn't going to respond right away. Not tonight. Not while my emotions were trembling like thin ice. A soft knock tapped against the door. I wiped my face quickly and sat up straighter. Yeah? The door creaked open, and Yvonne poked her head in. You need anything, baby? I thought I heard you moving around. I forced a smile. I'm okay, just settling in. Her eyes narrowed the way older black women can see through you without effort. Good, but don't sit in here with your thoughts too long. They get heavy when they don't have company. She didn't ask questions. She didn't pry. She just gave me that kind, seasoned look, half tough love, half tenderness, and closed the door. When I lay back on the bed again, the weight of exhaustion sank over me. For a moment, I let myself drift. But sleep didn't come easy in a strange house, not with voices and footsteps echoing faintly through the hallway. I woke up sometime after midnight to the sound of hushed voices drifting from down the hall. Eddie and Yvonne. I sat up slowly, listening. She's been through hell, Eddie. Don't push her. I'm not pushing anything, but she needs help, more than she's admitting. I held my breath. That cousin of hers left her with nothing. You expect her to bounce back overnight? Yvonne hissed. No, but she can't do this on her own. Not this time. I pulled the covers around me, heart pounding. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or exposed, comforted or embarrassed. They weren't gossiping, but it still felt strange hearing people talk about my pain like it had become part of their household. After a few minutes, their voices faded. I stared up at the ceiling, wondering how much of my suffering I had been carrying alone all these months before it finally crushed me. Morning light crept through the curtains far too early. My eyes burned, my head ached, and I felt like I had aged 10 years overnight. Eddie knocked gently before easing the door open. Morning, he said softly. Yvonne's making breakfast. You should eat something. I nodded and forced myself out of bed. My clothes felt wrinkled and tired, but I straightened myself the best I could. On the way to the kitchen, I caught Jamal glancing up from the couch. He lifted his chin at me in that teenage boy greeting that means, I see you, respect. I managed a small smile. Yvonne slid a plate in front of me. Grits, eggs, turkey sausage. Eat, she ordered. You look like you've been wrestling demons in your sleep. I didn't argue. Halfway through breakfast, my phone buzzed loud in the quiet kitchen. Too loud. Yvonne and Eddie paused, looking at me with concern. I turned the phone over and saw the caller ID. Unknown number. Again, my stomach dropped. I didn't answer. Not while I was sitting in someone else's kitchen eating their food. Not while my heart was still fragile. But the voicemail came through seconds later. Who keeps calling you this early? Yvonne asked. Not in a nosy way, but in a protective one. I swallowed and slipped the phone into my pocket. Nobody important. That was a lie. And everybody at the table felt it. I finished eating and excused myself to the small back porch. The cool morning air bit my skin, clearing my head enough to tap the voicemail. Her voice came through shakier than before. Monica, please. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I need you to call me back, please. Something's happening. Every muscle in my body tensed. I played it again, then again, trying to catch any clue in her tone. Fear, panic, maybe guilt. Nothing made sense. I was about to replay it a fourth time when the porch door slid open and Eddie stepped out. You okay? No, I whispered honestly. She called again. His jaw tightened. What'd she say? That she's scared? that something's happening? You believe her? I stared out at the yard where a few stubborn autumn leaves clung to the fence. I don't know, but she sounded terrified. Eddie didn't speak for a moment. Then he put his hand on the railing beside me, close, but not touching. Just promise me something, he murmured. If you're planning to call her back, don't do it alone. I opened my mouth to respond, but the porch door burst open behind us. It was Jamal. His eyes were wide, alarmed. Auntie Monica, there's a car outside. I frowned. A car? Yeah, he said. Then sitting there a minute, windows tinted. Someone's inside. My heart stopped cold. And Jamal swallowed. They're staring right at the house. The phone buzzed again in my hand. Unknown number. My blood ran icy. I already knew who it was. For a long second, none of us moved. The air on the porch seemed to thicken, pressing against my skin until I felt trapped inside it. My phone buzzed again in my hand. Another call, same unknown number. And this time, I didn't even look at the screen. My eyes were locked on Jamal's frightened face. What do you mean someone is staring at the house? I asked, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. Jamal shifted, glancing back toward the street. I was taking out the trash, saw this black sedan parked by the curb, real still, windows tinted dark. I couldn't see much, but whoever's inside hasn't taken their eyes off this house since I came out. Eddie swore under his breath and stepped past us, moving quickly but quietly. Where is it? Show me. We followed him back through the living room. Yvonne was standing by the hallway now, a dish towel in her hand, her eyes sharp with worry. What's going on? Someone's outside, Eddie said without turning his head. Yvonne's already dark eyes deepened. Is it about her cousin? I don't know yet. She set the towel down and crossed her arms tightly, standing protectively at the edge of the room as if she could shield all of us with her presence alone. I felt my legs moving before my brain caught up. I stepped to the window and slowly pulled the curtain back an inch. My breath hitched. There it was. A black sedan parked across the street, angled slightly like it had been rushed into position. I couldn't see the driver, just the faint outline of a figure leaning forward in the seat, watching, waiting. A cold wave swept through my chest. I let the curtain fall back into place, my fingers trembling. Eddie stepped close. You recognize the car? No. But something about it feels wrong, like whoever's in there isn't here by accident. The phone buzzed again. I stared at it this time. Unknown number, the same one, the same persistent calls that had started last night. My entire body tensed. Could it be Desiree? Was she in that car? Had she followed me here? No. Her voice on the voicemail didn't sound like someone hiding in the shadows. It sounded like someone running from something. Eddie reached for my phone. Let me answer it. I shook my head instinctively and held it tighter. No, if it's her, I need to hear it. Then put it on speaker, he said, eyes firm. The phone kept buzzing. I waited until the last ring, then finally pressed accept. A breathless whisper jumped through the speaker. Monica? Oh, thank God, Monica, please. Desiree? I choked out. What is going on? Her words came out fast, jumbled, like she was trying to outrun her own fear. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. He's looking for me. Who? Eddie demanded, leaning closer to the phone. Desiree gasped. A door slammed on her end. Muffled footsteps echoed in the background. I didn't mean for this to get so big, Monica. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Where are you? I said, panic rising in my throat. She didn't answer that. She just kept rambling. He said he owed me. He said if he didn't pay me back, he'd come after me. And then he said he'd come after anyone I talked to, anyone who tried to help. Eddie's face hardened. Who is he? But the line suddenly got quiet. Desiree? I said, my voice breaking. Desiree? Static crackled so loudly it made me pull the phone away from my ear. Then a low, unfamiliar voice came through the speaker. Calm, measured. Terrifying. You should have stayed out of this, Monica. My blood froze. Eddie snatched the phone from my hand. Who is this? But the line cut. Silence swallowed the room. I stared at Eddie, then at Yvonne, then at Jamal. My heartbeat thudded against my ribs so violently I could hardly breathe. That's it, Eddie said sharply. We're calling the police. No, I grabbed his arm. We don't even know what's happening yet. We know enough, Yvonne snapped, stepping closer. Some man is threatening you. He knows your name. He's calling from the same number as your cousin, and there's a car outside watching this house.
That's not coincidence. But calling the police might make things worse. Might, Yvonne repeated, or it might keep you alive. I felt dizzy. My vision blurred for a moment and I gripped the back of the couch to steady myself. Everything was spinning out of control faster than I could process. Eddie didn't wait for my permission. He pulled out his phone and dialed. But before he could press call, Jamal shouted from the window, "They're getting out!" All of us rushed to the front window. The black sedan's driver's side door opened slowly. A tall man stepped out, wearing a dark jacket and a cap pulled low over his eyes. He wasn't in a hurry. He wasn't nervous. He walked with the heavy, steady confidence of someone who already owned the outcome. He crossed the street, stopped at the edge of the driveway, lifted his head, and stared directly through the window at me. I stumbled back, breath catching in my throat. "Get away from the window!" Yvonne shouted, dragging Jamal back by his arm. The man took one more slow step forward. Eddie finally hit the call button, just as my phone buzzed again with one more voicemail from the same unknown number. And when I saw the first 3 seconds of the transcript flash across the screen, my heart nearly stopped. It said, "Monica, he found me."
I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was pressed against the far wall of the living room, my chest tightening so violently I thought my ribs might crack. My phone was still in my hand, buzzing against my palm like it was trying to warn me, to shake me, to drag me into action. Eddie was barking instructions. "Yvonne, get Jamal in the back room, now." But the sound felt like it was underwater, distorted, far away. I couldn't take my eyes off the window where that man had been standing a second ago, because when I looked again, he was gone. The driveway was empty. Eddie cursed under his breath and rushed to the door, deadbolt snapping. "Nobody goes outside," he growled. "Nobody." Yvonne was already pushing Jamal down the hallway, her face pale but fierce. "Go to the back, baby. Don't you come out till I say so." I stood frozen, gripping the phone as my pulse pounded in my ears. The voicemail icon blinked. "Monica, he found me." Desiree's voice, shaking, breathless, afraid in a way I'd never heard from her. Not even as kids. Not even when she used to run crying to my room after nightmares. Eddie stepped toward me. "Play it." I swallowed hard and hit the button. Desiree's whisper flooded the room. "Monica, I'm so sorry. I thought I could fix it before it got this far. I thought I could pay him back. I thought I still had time. But he found me." A loud crash echoed in the background. Desiree gasped. "Please don't hang up. Please." Another voice yelled something, muffled, angry. Then the voicemail cut abruptly. I felt my knees weaken, the air thinning as if someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the house. "Eddie, she's in danger," I whispered, tears blurring my vision. "You're in danger," he corrected, grabbing my shoulders firmly. "That man didn't park outside her place. He parked outside this one. But she needs help. She needs to call the police," he snapped, "not drag you deeper into whatever criminal mess she got herself into." His words stung, not because they were harsh, but because they carried too much truth. Yvonne returned, shutting the hallway door behind her. "Jamal's in the back." I gave him the house phone and told him to stay put. "Eddie, did you call the police yet?" "Calling now," he said, lifting his phone. But before he could dial, a sudden knock thundered against the door. 3 heavy pounds. Boom, boom, boom. The sound ricocheted through my bones. Yvonne flinched. "Don't you open that door." Eddie motioned for us to get back, but I couldn't move. Something about the knocking. It wasn't frantic. It wasn't violent. It was deliberate, calculated. He knocked again. Boom. My phone buzzed in my hand at the same time. A text message from unknown number. "Open the door." My stomach flipped. Cold and heavy. Eddie grabbed my wrist. "Give me the phone." I didn't move. Couldn't. My fingers locked around it like it was the last piece of control I had left. The knocking stopped. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Then a voice spoke from the other side of the door. Calm, low, too calm. "Monica, we need to talk." My blood ran ice cold. Eddie stepped in front of me immediately, shielding me with his entire body. "You're not talking to anyone, Monica. Back up." But I couldn't. My legs wouldn't listen. The voice outside, it was the same one from the voicemail, the same man who had whispered that warning, that threat. "I know you're scared, but I'm not here for you." Eddie's jaw clenched. "Don't listen to a word he says. I'm looking for Desiree."
the man said, almost casually. She stole from me, and she owes me more than money now. I know she contacted you. I know she came to you for help. I choked on a breath. How does he know that? Yvonne whispered, horrified. I just want what's mine, he continued. She took something from me, something valuable, and since she ran, I need you to tell me where she is. Eddie snapped, get away from my house before the man interrupted, voice hardening. Eddie Thompson, age 52. You drive a 2017 Dodge Charger. Your nephew goes to Jefferson High School. You work nights 3 days a week at the paper plant. Should I continue? Yvonne gasped sharply. Eddie froze. My heart began to race so violently it felt like it might burst. See? The man said softly. I'm not here to hurt anyone who cooperates. I just want Desiree. Another text buzzed. Monica, open the door. This isn't your fight. My breath caught. Desiree. That text was from her. The timestamp showed it came only 15 seconds ago. She was alive, still running, still watching. But why would she tell me to open? Eddie snatched the phone from my hand before I could respond. Don't. Whatever you do, don't. Yvonne whispered a prayer under her breath, gripping the counter so hard her knuckles turned white. The man knocked one last time, softly this time. You have 60 seconds. I felt the room tilt, my stomach clenching painfully. I backed away from the door, shaking so hard I had to grab the wall for balance. Eddie grabbed his phone again. I'm calling the police now. No more waiting. But before he could press call, every light in the house flickered. Once, twice, then went completely out. The house plunged into darkness. Yvonne screamed, and from the front yard, the man's voice echoed through the dead silence. Time's up.
The darkness felt alive, not the soft, familiar darkness of a power outage. This was heavier, thicker, as if the whole house had been swallowed. My breath hitched as I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady myself. Somewhere beside me, Yvonne whispered, Lord, cover us, her voice trembling like a paper in the wind. Eddie cursed under his breath. He cut the power. Stay close. Don't move. But the dark was disorienting. It erased distance. It erased directions. It erased safety. My heartbeat echoed in my ears like footsteps. Then a faint scraping noise, metal against the door. My throat tightened. Eddie! Someone's at the lock. I hear it, he whispered back. Everyone stay low. A small click sounded from the front door. Too precise. Too intentional. He was picking the lock. No, 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 I whispered, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Eddie moved silently, placing himself between the door and us. Even without seeing him, I could feel how tense he was, like a storm coiled inside a man's body. Monica! A whisper floated from the window. I jerked toward the voice, slamming my shoulder into the wall. It wasn't the man's voice. It was lighter, higher, female. My blood ran cold. Monica! Open the window, please! Desiree. Des? I whispered. Where are you? Right outside, she whispered. Please, hurry. I don't have much time. Eddie hissed. Don't go near that window. That might not be her. But the text could have been spoofed. His voice was a steel wire pulled tight. Another faint click at the door. Then a low, satisfied exhale from the other side. The lock was almost undone. Panic surged through me like an electric shock. Eddie, he's getting in. We have to do something. I got it, he said, calm but deadly focused. Yvonne, grab them all, go out the back, take Monica with you. No, Yvonne whispered furiously. I'm not leaving you to fight some criminal on your own. You think this man came alone? You want Monica near the front while he... Another whisper cut through him. Monica, please. Desiree's voice again, desperate, shaking, too real to ignore. I turned toward the window, reaching out blindly. Des, where are... Something tapped the glass, lightly. 3 small taps. Tap, tap, tap. My entire body froze. That was our childhood signal. We used it during thunderstorms when we got scared. We used it when sneaking out past bedtime. We used it when we wanted the other to open the window quietly without alerting Mama. Tap, tap, tap. Monica! She whispered, please, open it. I'm hurt. My heart cracked open. Eddie, it's really her. That's our signal. She's hurt. She needs... No, Eddie growled. You move away from that window right now. But she's a bait, he snapped. He's using her to pull you out.
As if on cue, the front lock made one last soft click. Finished. The doorknob twitched. My stomach dropped. Eddie lunged forward and braced the door with all his weight. Yvonne, go! But before she could move, a sudden shriek of wind burst through the house as the back door slammed open on its own. Yvonne screamed. Jamal yelled from somewhere down the hall. Eddie swore violently. I spun around, disoriented, terrified. The voice outside the front door chuckled, a low, pleased sound that made my skin crawl. Looks like you don't have 60 seconds anymore. The door shuddered again as he pushed. Eddie pushed back with a roar. Call the police! My phone was in my pocket. I fumbled for it, but my fingers were trembling too hard. The screen lit up just enough to illuminate my hands. Then buzz. A new text from the same unknown number. Don't call them. You'll make this worse for all of us. Another buzz. Let me in. Now. A third. Desiree is bleeding. My breath hitched painfully. She's hurt. Eddie, she's hurt. She needs to go to a hospital, he snapped. Not drag you into this. Monica, listen to me. Another tap at the window. Softer. Weak. Tap, tap, tap. My resolution shattered. I'm going to her, I whispered. Over my dead body, Eddie growled, still holding the door. The front door suddenly slammed inward with a monstrous force, knocking Eddie backward. He crashed onto the floor with a loud grunt of pain. Yvonne screamed. I shrieked. The door swung wide open, and a tall figure stepped in. Shadows clung to him like a second skin. Even in the darkness, I could sense his presence. Calm, confident, dangerous. He didn't rush inside. He strolled in. Too sure of himself, too unbothered by fear. He turned his head toward me, and though I couldn't see his eyes, I felt them like a pair of cold hands gripping my throat. Hello, Monica. My voice died in my chest. Behind me, the window slid upward with a soft hiss. Desiree's trembling, blood-stained fingers curled over the sill. Run! Monica, run! She whispered weakly. The man reached out a hand toward me. No, he said calmly. She's not going anywhere.
I woke up before the sun, the house still wrapped in that soft hush that only happens when the world hasn't stretched awake yet. Eddie's guest room felt warmer than usual, like the air itself was holding me gently, telling me, you made it. You really made it. For the first time in months, my breathing wasn't tight. My chest didn't feel like it was carrying a full tank of shame. My spirit wasn't bruised. It was steady. I lay there for a moment, staring at the small crack in the ceiling paint, letting everything that had happened settle inside me. Not heavy, not painful, just real. Renee's face flashed in my mind. That look she gave me when the truth unraveled. Not anger, not even embarrassment, just fear. Fear of being held accountable, fear of what she'd lose, fear of having to face herself. And somehow, I wasn't angry anymore. Hurt? Yes, I don't think that's something that will ever fully fade, but angry? No. Something shifted in me the day I walked into that community center and saw my name on that volunteer roster again. The day people clapped when I walked in. The day I led a workshop on budgeting and rebuilding credit, and 3 women cried after because they said my honesty changed them. I realized that what I lost wasn't the end of me. It was the beginning of something God had been trying to prepare me for. I sat up, wrapped the soft throw blanket tighter around my shoulders, and reached for my journal on the nightstand. The pages were worn, slightly bent at the corners, and filled with my handwriting. Angry entries, broken entries, pages stained with tears, and others marked with breakthroughs I didn't even realize were happening at the time. I flipped to a fresh page. Quote, today I choose peace over proof, healing over revenge, and myself over everything that tried to break me. Unquote. As I wrote it, something inside me clicked. A quiet, beautiful closing of a door that had been left hanging open too long. A soft knock came at the door. Come in, I said, pushing a stray coil behind my ear. Eddie peeked his head in first, smiling like you've been smiling all week. Proud, tired, gentle. Thought you might be awake. Vanessa's making breakfast. Malcolm's already eaten half of it. I laughed. A real laugh.
the kind that shakes loose the dust on your heart. I'll be down in a minute. Take your time. Eddie stepped inside, leaning against the door frame. Got something for you. He handed me a folded envelope. My name was written in careful block letters. What's this? Just open it. Inside was a printed email confirming my approval for the Low-Income Home Recovery Program, a program I helped others apply for, never imagining I'd be the one needing it. At the bottom, under Status Approved, it listed the grant amount for relocation assistance. I covered my mouth. Oh my God, Eddie? He stepped closer. Monica, you deserve good things. You deserve a home. You deserve to rebuild without begging, borrowing, or bending who you are. This, he tapped the paper gently, this is the world finally catching up with what you've already earned. My eyes filled. Tears slipped out, but they weren't the painful kind. They're offering immediate placement, he continued. We can go look at the first home this afternoon. We? I asked softly. He shrugged, like it was obvious. Yeah, unless you think I'm letting you deal with landlords by yourself. Not happening. For the first time in a long, long stretch of storms and dark roads, I felt held, supported. Not saved, because I saved myself, but accompanied. I glanced back at the paper. A new home, a fresh start, a life I rebuilt with my own hands. A soft voice floated from the hallway. Vanessa yelling down the stairs for Malcolm to stop eating the biscuits. The smell of butter and cinnamon drifted into the room. Warmth, family, safety, a kind of love that didn't use me, drain me, or disguise itself as something holy. I stood and crossed to the window, pulling the curtains open. Sunlight poured across my face, golden and unapologetic. It felt like God was saying, go on now. Step into the life you almost gave up on. Eddie walked over, standing beside me without saying anything. I whispered, this is the first morning I've woken up without fear. That's how you know you're free, he murmured. Below us in the yard, Malcolm kicked a basketball toward a hoop that had seen better days. The ball flew wild and hit the fence. He laughed at himself. Eddie chuckled. That boy still can't aim. I nudged him. You know it runs in your family. He raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Really? We stood there, laughing, breathing, existing in a space I didn't think I'd ever feel again. Peace. A phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at it. A text from Renee. I'm sorry. Just that. A few months ago, I would have read that message 5 times, searching for sincerity, wondering if it was a trick, a trap, a doorway back into the same wound. Now, I simply turned the phone over, screen down. I'm ready, I said. For breakfast? For everything. And I meant it. We walked out of the room together, sunlight at our back, the hallway filled with the sounds of a family that wasn't blood, but was far more like home than blood had been in a long, long time. My story didn't end with the money I lost. My story ended with the woman I found, myself.